Welcome to Laurie's Stories. I am here by myself today. My co-host Luann is actually in a very busy season right now. I honestly don't know how often she will be joining me on the podcasts anymore, but she is still very much my behind-the-scenes girl and making this all come together. The beautiful quality of things she puts out there, I am so grateful to her because if I had to do all that, there would be no podcast. So thank you, Luann. Even today, she walked me through making sure that everything's set up right for my first solo episode. So this is exciting. Seems a little weird just talking to, the camera instead of her, but I can do this. Yes, and she encouraged me that I can, and she is actually very involved right now with getting her twin sister's bachelorette party planned. And last week, she and I together, along with some more of the family and some friends, hosted our daughter Lorinda's bridal shower right out here in the backyard. It turned out so beautiful in spite of like a rainy morning made for some hectic setup. But then the weather turned nice and it quit raining just in the nick of time as the guests got here. So she had her dream backyard bridal brunch is what it was. And it was a wonderful time. So life has been busy but good, trying to soak up those last minutes of summer and realizing that our second and last daughter is getting married. So it's really bittersweet to think that, I won't be making another bridal shower and we won't be planning another wedding for any one of our daughters. But you know what? It all starts over with the grandchildren, and I'm so grateful about that. Family is one of my biggest joys. And just to see it all start over with the grandchildren has been so fun and such a blessing. So, yeah. So today I am going to continue the conversation about healthy conversations, healthy relationships, and healthy emotions. I was with a client earlier today, and we were talking about how it's all tied together. And I teach this wherever I go ever since I had that revelation that we are triune beings. And so it only makes sense that if one part of our body is suffering, it all suffers. So for instance, let's talk about our emotions. And if we don't learn how to deal with those in a healthy way, and we've always been taught to just stuff them or ignore them or not give them any credit. We don't want to let our emotions rule us. I think Joyce Meyer says this: we don't want to let our emotions drive the car, but neither do we want to just stuff them in the trunk and make them stay in there, because they will come out somewhere. So it's a subject that I'm very passionate about. And I think partly because the way I grew up, I didn't know how to process my emotions or what to do with my emotions, or they weren't always welcome. Emotions weren't always, they were maybe considered very fickle, and they can be. Our emotions can be very fickle, and we should never trust our emotions alone. But at the same time, they do tell us something. So to get this started today, I thought I would actually read a page out of my book. It is called Joy in the Journey. I have the old version here. These are, it's a newer, updated version on Amazon, available on Amazon, called Joy in the Journey, 365 Whispers of Hope. This picture on the front was me as a young 18-year-old girl in my Rumspringa. But you can find this book on Amazon. It's snippets of coming out of the Amish. I talk about that quite a bit. And then I write about our current everyday life. And it's all tied together with a Bible verse for every day. So I will have my daughter post the link in the show notes. So I chose one: conflict in relationships is what it's called. Conflict is a part of life, it seems. A part that I wish would just magically go away forever. Wishful thinking, right? How do you handle conflict? Were you taught how to do that gracefully or in a way that issues get resolved? Or do you just sweep them under the carpet and hope they go away? I think Luann touched on that last month. She said, just get it all out from under the carpet and talk about it. I myself am on a journey with this, trying to do conflict better, trying to remember in the middle of a conflict that relationship is more important than being right. And yet we all need and want to feel heard, our opinions valued. We ought to use our voice for what we believe in and stand for. This can be a tall order, though. Again, there's an amazing book out there. I'll always advocate for other books and speakers because that is I've learned so much just from listening to others. This book is called Keeping Your Love On by Danny and Sherry Silk. It's very helpful for any type of relationship conflict, whether it's in business or in your church, your family, or in your marriage, any relationships, really. The challenge is to follow the concepts they give us in that book, but I dare say it is the best way to resolve conflict, and I'll touch a little bit on that after this, the way they encourage you to resolve conflict. There's also this short but powerful verse in Romans 15:18 that says, "A gentle or soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger." That is so true, is it not? While we do well to remember these simple words during conflict, one thing I know is conflict is inevitable as long as we are surrounded by other humans. But we do have a choice in how we engage or respond to it. It's okay to say, I need a timeout. It's okay to take some time to sort out your thoughts and feelings when the pressure gets to be too much. Our world in general needs a revolution in this. But once again, it starts with us. It starts with you and it starts with me. And then the prayer for this at the end was, Jesus, you are, again, the best example when it comes to conflict in relationships. Teach us how to model you in Proverbs 15:1. A soft answer turns away wrath. Help us to not give in to anger and saying words we will regret in the heat of the moment. Thank you for your guidance in this matter. So, and then I was just thinking about that also, how Jesus truly was the greatest example that we have in the face of pressure and false accusations. It's so inspiring to me when I read through the books of the Bible and I see how he was persecuted. He was accused of so many things that weren't true. Even his own family at one point said that he's out of his mind. Some of us can probably identify with that. That our families think we're out of our minds, right? And in some places, what inspires me with that, in some places, Jesus, it says he spoke not a word. In face of the accusations and the condemnations, he did not even say a word. He could have defended himself. And I remember in some places thinking, why didn't he? He should have defended himself. Maybe it would have saved his life, but I don't think, that could not happen because that was not the plan. And yet, in other places, he did sometimes rise up and really speak his mind. In one place, he even called the Pharisees a brood of vipers. Wow. So there were times when he did speak up, and I think we can learn even from that there are times when we do need to speak up, and we do need to let our voice be heard. But then I think other times it can be just as good to just not say a word. And that's going to vary from one time to the next. We never know. So I think we just, in the heat of the moment, I think we get to choose, how am I going to respond? Am I going to say words that I'm going to regret and can never take back again? Because even though we apologize, words are something we can never totally take back. Yes, we can make it right. We can repent. We can be sorry. But sometimes the damage is done. Sometimes our words have already cut so deeply that it takes a while for those wounds to heal. I know I have done that. I know it's been done to me, and I know I've done that. So I've been on both ends of the spectrum. So I think if you do find yourself in the heat of that moment where you can't kind of control your emotions in the moment, it is so good to take a break and come back to the conversation. Come back when you're not feeling so upset and so angry even. Because I do believe that when we just have loud, angry outbursts, I don't think nothing's really going to get resolved like that. Neither, the opposite spectrum of that is if we never speak up and we're just always quiet and we never say how we feel, and yet on the inside we feel like we're going to explode. Well, guess what? At some point you probably will. At some point in your life that will all come out. So that's not healthy either. There is a right way to resolve conflict, and that is with kind words, with soft words. And if you have something that you know is going to be like a tricky conversation that you want to discuss with your partner or with your spouse, one thing that has worked well for us in our marriage is like if we, and I'm not just talking about marriage here, I'm talking about any type of relationships, is if when things are good, when we are in a good place, when we're both in a good, healthy, happy place, if we ask for permission to talk to the other person about something that is concerning to us or that is bothering us or that, kind of set the stage, set yourself up for success. That can work really well. Set yourself up for success, ask for permission, ask for their time when they're not stressed, when they're not hungry, when they're not tired. That can be a tall order, right? But the conversation just has a tendency to go much better when you're not already in a heightened state of emotion. So that's a good tip that I would have for resolving conflict in a healthy way. And then I want to touch back on that book that I recommended with Danny and Sherry Silk. So I remember when we first read that book, it was like amazing. It still is, but to learn how to put it in practice, it took a while. But they teach that when you are in a conflict, you do not really get to come to the conversation and just really tell the other person what they did wrong. But you do get to tell them how it made you feel. When it made me feel this way when you said that, or it made me feel this way when you did that. You first talk about yourself. This is how it made me feel. Instead of like launching in with an accusation, well, you did this and you did that. And it just doesn't set the conversation off right. And it's way more apt to end in an argument. But if you come with a humble attitude and say, this is how this made me feel. When you said that, that really hurt. That really hurt my heart. Is that what you meant? How did you mean that? Could you rephrase that for me? Or, just choose your words carefully. And conflict doesn't have to always be messy and hard and out of control. It really doesn't. It is way too often because we speak when we're agitated or when we're angry or we think it's all the other person. And guess what? It never is. It never is all the other person. It takes two people to argue. It takes two people to fight. It takes, two people will often, I might hurt you like this, but that person probably had hurt me in another way. And sometimes we just lash back. And nothing ever gets resolved like that. That never ends. That's what I call the crazy cycle. You get on that crazy cycle and you just keep going and going. And it takes a mature person to break that crazy cycle and say, okay, I'm going to be the bigger person. I am going to go back. I'm going to apologize for how I made you feel. And sometimes we might not even feel that we did something wrong. And maybe we didn't, but the truth is we still made that other person feel like we did, and we can always apologize for that. We can always apologize for how we made somebody feel. Maybe what we did was or wasn't wrong. And that doesn't even have to be the point right then. But we can come back and say, I'm sorry for how I made you feel when I did that. That was not my intention. And that usually can get to a person's heart pretty quick when they realize that your intention never was to hurt them and that you are truly sorry that you did hurt them. So that is something that works really well also for us. And believe me, we are still learning this. We still get practice. Constantly we get practice. When you have two people who come from two different families, they were raised differently. Maybe one of you was taught how to resolve conflict in a healthy way, but maybe the other person, like me, was never taught that, and you didn't even know what to do with your emotions, or you stuffed them until one day they all come out over a period of a couple of years. Everything that was ever stuffed down in there. And now you might be taking out, now you might be dealing with emotions from way back in your childhood. And now your partner is having to deal with all of that as well because you never did before. So that's when I think that it would be really good to find yourself a therapist or find yourself a counselor to help you work through those unresolved childhood emotions and triggers and trauma. And yes, I am very passionate about that. I do that part-time here in my office because I'm just so passionate about mental health, because I feel like we need to talk more about it. I think we need to normalize talking about our troubles, talking about our emotions, talking about our feelings. And I'm not saying to just blast it out there on Facebook for the world to see. I don't see much. I don't know if that is very helpful at all, because unless you really just need a place to put it and you really just need a place to vent. But what I'm talking about is like actually finding somebody that can help you heal, that can get all that old junk out and bring it to the surface. And then today, start communicating in a healthy way with the people around you, the people who are in your life. And I can't express enough how important it is to teach your children that, how to communicate, how to say what they're feeling, say what they need, say what they like and what they don't like. That's okay. It doesn't have to be, just because it's not the way I think it should be, doesn't make it wrong. I so appreciate how our daughter-in-law teaches her little sons, our 3 little grandsons, to verbalize their emotions. And it's cute sometimes, like, they'll be, when they have a fight or whatever amongst themselves, and how they will tell each other how they feel. And then so quick they apologize and they're done. And it's just, it's so beautiful to watch. It is just so beautiful to watch. But if you stuff things, it can turn into bitterness and resentment and anger. And that is not healthy. Think of it as something that actually has substance, and then that is all stored in here somewhere, and that is not healthy. It can turn to sickness. It can turn to anxiety, ulcers, all kinds of things that are just not healthy. So I will always be an advocate for healthy communications. I hope that you have somebody that you can talk to. I hope that your relationships around you are safe enough that you dare to say how you feel. And if they're not, say it anyway. Say it anyway. Just because you say how you feel or what you need, and the person you're telling it to doesn't respond correctly, that is not your problem. Their reaction is not your problem. Your responsibility is to say what you need to say. in a good way, in a kind way, in a humble way. And the other person's reaction is not your responsibility. They get to react however they need to, however they feel they need to. We can never change another person, but we can manage ourselves well and be an example in that. And that will go a long ways. So you can model that for your children. If you have children and you have and you're in a relationship with the mom or the dad, you can model healthy communication to them. You can do that with your coworkers. Everywhere we go, there's relationships. And we can learn how to communicate in a healthy way that brings life and wholeness and healing to everybody around us. And it's actually a good thing to just practice every single day. So with that, I think I'm going to leave you for this time. And if there are certain topics that you would love for me to talk about, I would welcome your feedback. I would welcome your feedback on this episode as well. Like I said, I'm totally still learning myself about what healthy relationships look like. I feel like I got a late start in life with that, but then I just really searched it out because I needed to. I needed to search it out because of the conflict that I myself was going through. And if you want a story, I know I promised you guys stories, Laurie's stories. For me, without dating myself, I will tell you, when I turned 40 years old, yes, already 40 years old, I thought that I was having a nervous breakdown or something. I wasn't sure what was happening. I just knew that what was going on inside of me, I could not stuff it anymore. And that started a journey for me of figuring out how to communicate in a healthy way, how to get healing from my past, how to clean out all the junk and forgive people and start fresh again. And guess what? For you do not have to wait until you're 40. You do not have to wait. You can start today. Do your own research, how it's all tied together. Soul, body, spirit. It truly is. We are triune beings. That the Bible teaches us that, and I fully believe that. And if you want to talk some more about this subject, I do also have a website. It is simplefaithcounseling.com, and you can reach out to me there if you're looking for a therapist. I do that part-time. I don't have a lot of openings, but I do that part-time. And most of all, talk to the people around you. Practice healthy communication with the people around you on a daily basis. That's our training ground. Those are the people that will benefit the most from us learning how to communicate in a healthy way. So I encourage you with that today. It's not even that it's so difficult or so hard. It's more just about learning how to do it. And sometimes we have to relearn a lot of things, right? We have to relearn the way we always did things. Maybe we never learned how to make our needs or our feelings known until we were super angry. That was me. I would wait until I would explode. That's not healthy, and it's not helpful, and almost nothing gets resolved in that way. So to just practice, like anything else, just practice until it becomes natural and easy to do it in a good and in a healthy way. All right, with that, I am going to leave you guys, and I would love if you would follow on Spotify, Instagram, YouTube. We have a YouTube channel, and give us your feedback. Share these to help us get them out. Like, subscribe. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening. I value you, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week and weekend, and I will see you next month.